The Garry's Mod TARDIS add-ons just had a huge update. The biggest addition is this new Capaldi variant to the default TARDIS, but as well as that, there's a bunch of other new changes that affect every single TARDIS. And then on top of all that, a whole bunch of other TARDIS add-ons are being updated too, like the 2023 Plus TARDIS and these LEGO TARDISes, just to name a few. So hello Fezwearers, today I'm going to show you everything new with the Gmod TARDISes. I'll get to the new default and the rest of the new update in a second, but first I want to go over some other TARDISes. This is probably the most infamous TARDIS add-on in Gmod. It was first announced in late 2023, then released in early 2024, and now in mid 2025 it's still not finished. But there's more to the story than that. This is one of the biggest interiors in the show, and the person recreating it in Gmod is doing it with so much detail that it's taken them all this time to do it. And technically more than all this time, I guess, because it's not done yet. But on top of that, from what I can tell, they've stopped updating the one in game while working on it behind the scenes. As you can see, at the minute, it's basically just a shell of the interior with a rotor, no controls, no details like the back of the doors here, no damage look, no vortex, and I think you get the point. However, from screenshots the creator has shared from what they're doing in Blender, you can see that it's a very different look, and basically everything is there. There's even extra optional stuff like furniture and wires, etc. And on top of that, it looks like they've even updated the exterior, and they're even making like sonic screwdrivers and things. So yeah, in game it's pretty bare bones, although I do actually quite like the exterior it has. It's probably one of the most detailed ones in the whole game anyway, and it also has an incredibly cool rotor animation, and there's even this unique feature where it plays music when you first enter the interior, with all of these options for songs too. And before I get to the new default, which is actually just so good, I want to show some other big updates to other TARDISes, like the LEGO ones. There's one for every single Doctor, and even ones for the Rani and the 4th Doctor's secondary control room, and these are all based off the game LEGO Dimensions that featured a whole Doctor Who section, although that game released during Capaldi's era, and even then didn't feature every TARDIS, so many of these are custom made just for Gmod, but made in the same style. I plan on making a full video on these, so I'm only briefly going over it here, but they are some of the coolest TARDISes in the whole of Gmod, and the fact there's just so many of them just reinforces that idea. At the moment, the 14th and 15th Doctor's TARDIS is still in development, but it's said to be almost finished, so when that is done, I'll be making a full in-depth review of every single one of these TARDISes, and even the Sonics too. But at the end of the day, there are loads of really good add-ons here that I can and will do videos on, especially the 9th and 10th Doctor's Coral TARDIS, which I'm actually shocked I haven't done a video on before. I mean, it's so good I've got 3 of them, and I've even got an add-on early access because it isn't released yet, although I may have had it for months and I've completely forgotten about it, but that's not the point. Also, just for the record, I know a few people have asked me over the years where I've gotten all these add-ons from, so instead of having to link every single one individually, I've made a Steam collection with literally every single Doctor Who add-on I've ever found, and if you want that, it's in the pinned comment. It's completely free and things, it's just a big group of add-ons basically. Anyway, let me show you this new default interior. Okay, so you've probably seen this version of the default TARDIS before. I mean, it's been in the game for over a year and a half now, and it's just a brilliant interior, arguably better than the actual Toyota interior. Plus my review of it has like 20,000 views or something ridiculous. So to access the new 12th Doctor version, you have to right click it and then select Capaldi. But on top of that, there's also a classic doors version, plus a whole bunch of settings, but I'll get to all that in a second. For now, I'm actually going to despawn this one and turn off the lamps, for reasons I'll explain when I get to the settings. In this show, I much prefer the Capaldi version of this interior to Matt Smith's. I just think it's much better lit and more TARDIS-y, while also being a lot more grounded and homely because of the bookshelves and things. And I think it's fair to say that idea is continued here in Gmod, because I think it's a big improvement to the other default. The orange lighting from the rotor is a bit intense, especially down here on the floor, but it is balanced really well everywhere else. Obviously, the basic layout of the interior is the exact same, but there are quite a few changes sprinkled around that you probably didn't even notice. Okay, so clearly the lighting is different, and that alone changes the whole vibe of the interior. It changes it from quite cold and mechanical to a lot warmer and more welcoming. And there's also like the bookshelves and the mirrors, as well as these roundels on the walls of the bottom floor. But there are also a whole bunch of other changes, plus obviously the new updates to the base TARDIS add-on that affect every TARDIS, which I'll get to in a minute, like this Flightless Flight lever on the console. Oh, and speaking of the console, there are a few different color changes for some reason, like the background of these gear things are now blue, and the telepathic circuit is a lot more yellow, but it does have a slight animation turning from like yellow to green. And then down here in the hallway system, everything is literally the exact same. I thought that because these lights were yellow, they would have been blue in the Matt Smith version, but no, apparently they've always been yellow, which is weird. And what's even weirder is that there is actually one blue light. I'm assuming it's a mistake or something, but I don't know what's going on anymore. And then this feature where you can change this room is the exact same, although they should have changed the rotor to be yellow here, I think. Oh, and you may remember that the 11th Doctor version had a whole bunch of customizable stuff with the body groups, and there's even more of that now. There's a bunch of stuff for the floor, the walls, the rotor, the console, and probably even more I've missed. I won't show all of them obviously, but the general idea is switching between stuff that changed as the TARDIS was used, like the roundels being here, and the colour of the rotor, but even small things like this one phone port from Flatline, and then even microscopic details that the biggest fans would never have even noticed, like how the phone wire changed slightly in different TARDISes, which is just crazy attention attention to detail. Probably the weirdest options on the rotor here, because you can literally just disable the ceiling. I have no idea why, but on this map it actually looks really cool. And the throttle lever can also change from moving just on the left and just on the right. However, pretty much the only thing I dislike about this TARDIS is the vortex it has. It's very blurry and there's a big black border in the middle, although at least it is the right one, I guess. Okay, but here comes the fun bit where I get to destroy the TARDIS so I can show you the damaged interior. Quite a lot actually changes here. Mainly it's just a big bunch of animations. In fact, I should probably put the ceiling back on. So the general lighting turns a bit more red. There's obviously the cloister bell. And then every single thing remotely close to having a light bulb starts pulsing. Although quite a cool detail is that if you engage the rotor handbrake, the cloister bell stops and all the lights stop flashing, and these floor vent lights just stay constantly red, and then these ones alternate between red and white. And once I've quickly shown the power off mode, I'll get to the few setting options and then the rest of the update. There's not actually that much to go over here. It's pretty much what you'd expect to happen. A few lights stay on, like these blue strips, as well as the blue roundels up here, although these do have a very slow fade animation. And there's also a very dim spotlight around the rotor and console, but other than that, it's just a very standard basic thing. And I'll actually put this TARDIS to the side for a second because I'll need to come back to it in a minute. But for now, let me show you the settings, starting with the lamps. So the lamps are on by default, and if the name doesn't give it away, this affects how the lighting is in the interior. But it can also cause quite a bit of lag, which is why I disabled it before. The lamps basically just add more sources of light to make it more controlled and accurate, especially around the colouring of it, but also the intensity. You can probably tell the most difference on the top floor, where these ring lights seem to actually produce white light where they didn't before, and then the rotor area is quite a bit brighter too, with this under bit being a lot more yellow. And that small difference actually makes the whole place look a lot better. It separates the top floor, middle floor, and bottom floor really well, and makes it look just more realistic and accurate. Okay, so the next option is called Enable Button, and I'll show this one in a second because, oh, you know what now, just show it now, why not? However, this only affects the classic door version, so I'll show that now too. So it spawns in as a TT capsule and works in the same way Classic Who TARDISes do, because when you enter, there's no more police doors, and instead there's this. Oh wait, hang on, I'll show it better. This design looks really cool and has a proper like sci-fi look. It's integrated really well with the rest of the interior, as it uses the same sort of materials and colours, as well as these two roundels here. And that button option I mentioned adds this little button here, which actually lets you control the door right here instead of having to go all the way to the console every time, which is definitely an improvement. I mean, this is so well made, there's even a body group option for it. It says there's two options, but they both do the exact same thing, so I don't know why there's actually two. By default, it looks exactly how you would expect it to be. This little area looks exactly the same as it does with the police doors, but when you disable the option, it sort of warps these tubes to match around the door, which is sort of what you'd think should happen with doors like this. However, it does get rid of that little button here. The next option is called Interior Color, and it lets you change the color of the interior to any of these options. And on paper, this sounds really cool. You can change the color from yellow to literally anything else. But as you can see, yellow isn't the default option here. In fact, it's not there at all. And it actually turns out, at least as far as I'm aware, this does absolutely nothing to the Capaldi version, and is made just to subtly change the 11th Doctor's version, which is a bit underwhelming. I feel like they should update that because yes, it's not accurate, but it's just cool to have. And then skipping the lamps, the last two options here are pretty much what you'd expect them to be. When you enable disabled screens on spawn, it disables the screens on spawn, although you can just toggle them here anyway. And then the final option, called Small Interior Less Corridors, funnily enough, it makes it so there's less corridors. It removes the hallway system down here entirely, and instead just uses the small version up here, and then just adds one of those doors here where you can change what the room is. However, there's a weird black bar covering the window, so you can only see the room by just peeking through this little gap, which I'm almost certain is a glitch, right? This can't be normal. But in fact, there's actually one more option here just for this version of the interior, called Doors, which changes the door to be like any other door. Okay, so now I've shown you everything to do with the new default. Let me show you the other features of this update. And remember, these things affect every single TARDIS add-on, not just this default one. First of all, coming back to this TARDIS, the update here is that the smoke that appears when the TARDIS has been damaged has been changed. Before this update, it was a sort of grey colour, which I suppose is more realistic, but it was very in your face and didn't actually look very good. So now it's been changed to be white and a bit more see-through, and it's been changed so the smoke looks like it's coming out the front rather than the back, as if it's coming through the doors or something, but obviously it's not. Another part of this update introduces a brand new control for every TARDIS. In this TARDIS, the new control is placed right here and it's called Flightless Flight. And I know the name's a bit confusing, but it's actually quite a cool feature, especially for someone like me. Okay, so what this does once it's activated is that it makes it look like the TARDIS is in flight mode without it actually being in flight mode. And the advantage of this is that there's no sound, it doesn't deplete any Archon energy, and the exterior stays grounded. They say this was made for roleplay purposes, and yeah, it works for that, but it's also useful for just checking out a new interior or something, just to see how the flight works without having to waste any energy or have that looping flight sound make you go insane whilst making a YouTube video. And just a quick side note, I love how this TARDIS looks when it's in flight mode. All the movement and the animation just looks so well made. Anyway, the music control for the TARDIS has also had a big update too. In this TARDIS, it's placed on the side panels, but basically it's just an interface that has a whole bunch of Doctor Who songs that you can play in the interior just to sort of vibe to, I guess. And if I can find footage from it before the update, this is what it looked like. So yeah, it's actually quite a big upgrade, and there's also now loads more songs. I can't play any of them to you because I like money, but it even has ones from the 14th Doctor, and even the banger that is 15. Then at the bottom here, there's a custom music section. However, if you have uploaded anything like I have using a YouTube link, then my condolences, because it does not support YouTube anymore and it will not work. You can now only upload custom music from a file on your computer. And while I couldn't forget the biggest update in this entire thing, I have no idea what that means. But ignoring that, I've now shown you everything there is. So if you want to see more, considering watching this video here, where I show you every TARDIS interior from Minecraft's Dalek mod. And on top of that, I've also got a very big video in the works about the TARDIS Refined mod, plus those other Gmod addons I mentioned earlier. Oh, and also subscribe. I forgot to mention that in the video, but yeah, like, subscribers, I want to get 4,000 this year. Thank you, bye.